everyone. My name is Captain Harrigus, Communications Coordinator at the Tennessee Bar Association, and I am back again with Berkeley Schwartz, our Government Affairs and Public Policy Director, for another weekly legislative update. And we have a special guest this week. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
This is Brian Langley. He is one of our lobbyists. We're very, very glad to have you here this week.
Well, good to be here. This is, I was told this was going to be a Jason Panu wine tasting followed by an SEC basketball set.
That's
this is not what this is.
We lured
Where's the wine?
I know. That comes later.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's a little early.
Oh, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Okay, so the first thing we have to get into, we're very excited. Go back and watch the other videos after this live broadcast if you aren't caught up on what our bills are and where we're at. But we're going to go and talk about our bills. What's the status?
Okay. So, we have several bills drafted by TVA sections that, are TVA initiatives. The first one was the subject matter jurisdiction in trial courts bill. And that one should be on the House floor next week and should also be considered by the Senate Judiciary Committee next week. And that's HB 854 and SB 719. I'm not going to give all the bill numbers because it's a lot of
I will
numbers.
post the links in the comments below after the video is posted later.
Okay, and then our adoption bills are just flying through. We have our cleanup bill, and then we also have our bill that allows for enforcement of post-adoption contact agreements. And those have they've been signed by the Speaker of the House and the Senate. So,
and a lot of credit to our adoption section that has just done a terrific job and does a lot of heavy lifting on those bills as session goes along there. It's nice to have, and I think you can say that about all TVA sections, but it's nice to have really the preeminent experts in the state working on those issues too. It really gives us a lot of credibility, and that's been nice.
It has been, and they have their own relationships with the members too, and they're pros. It's great. Okay, so our next bill is our service of process bill, and that passed the Senate last week, and it's scheduled to be, it passed the House Judiciary Subcommittee it was referred to, and it's going to be considered by the full House Judiciary Committee on Wednesday. We added an amendment that stated that if process server's address is not listed, that alone won't invalidate that service of process, and that both attorneys have to provide the address for the process servers to the other attorney. So that made everybody happy.
And that bill passed the Senate 32-0, which was fantastic.
That's
you don't
awesome.
see a ton of that. Granted, there's probably not a lot of people in the Senate that interested in service of process, but I will say,
it's an important issue.
The thing about it, this is a really good example about how legislation works. So we initially drafted the bill following a lot of feedback that we'd gotten from judges and other members of the bar about this one area that was really catching people. We were trying to figure out sponsors. We took it to House sponsor Johnny Garrett from Goodlettsville, who's a practicing attorney. He said, "Oh my gosh, I've been caught up by that issue. That has actually gotten me before.
Right.
I would love to run the bill." That was just luck. We had a tweet suggested by Senator John Stevens, who had been hearing from a lot of the folks in his district about, we need to make some tweaks to the bill. Had that not gone well, that bill might not have gone through, and instead we made what I think a lot of people consider to be a minor tweak to the bill, but it was enough to satisfy people, and then the bill goes through and passes 32-0 in the Senate. So it's just a great example about how good legislation gets passed.
Exactly, and that was a bill we weren't even worried about, and then we thought it wasn't going to happen, and now it's already passed. So that's a good result. The next bill is our probate bill, which does a lot of complicated probate and trust things. And that is on the schedule for House Children and Family Subcommittee next week, and I'm waiting to see if it'll be before Senate Judiciary Committee. They haven't released their calendar yet, but I feel like it will be.
We think it will be, and that's another one where it really helps to have a lot of our experts. Al Secor, Chattanooga, has been fantastic, and I will say, I'm sure Al's watching. Facebook Live, I'm sure Al's watching.
He's all over Facebook.
But I will say that when you're able to, Berkeley and I have this happen all the time, when you're able to tell a legislator this is an Al Secor approved bill, it tends to go a lot smoother.
I know. You just say that name and they're like, got it. Because he is the expert. Very reasonable. Just a great guy. Okay. Last but not least is our bill. I know what it was. The construction lien bill. And actually what's happened has been interesting, and I think I've mentioned this maybe on some of the videos before, but we decided that we weren't going to run our bill because the whole point of the bill was that we were unhappy with Tennessee Code 6621-108. That was enacted and became a new statute last year. We hated it, and so we were trying to add malice, as a condition of its being applied. But then somebody else introduced the bill, HB 757, which was a caption bill, where they just put in new language that completely repealed that section. So we were like, we like your bill better, because just take it away, because it wasn't really needed, and we just, so that bill has passed the House floor and is going to be considered in the Senate Commerce and Labor Committee next week.
It passed the House 54-26, and so, that sounds pretty close, and it is. I mean, there's no question about that. The debate on that bill was talking about, the proponents were talking about the unintended consequences, which is what our construction law section has experienced all too well. But on the floor, the sponsor of last year's bill, Representative Rudd from Murfreesboro, got up and really gave an impassioned speech. He said, look, these weren't unintended consequences. It's exactly what we plan on doing. And so everything that happens, what was supposed to happen, we spent a lot of time on this. That said, I think that groups such as the Bar Association, Associated Builders and Contractors, the home builders, there were a lot of related groups that just said, look, this is probably a bridge too far, and so we need to go back and make that change. So it passed the House 54-26 or 27. In the Senate, we expect that bill to have a much easier time.
Yeah.
The reason is because the sponsor of last year's bill, the bad bill, if you will, that got us in this situation, he is also the sponsor of the repeal. And so we don't expect to have the issues with that we've had in the past. And again, it's a great example. That's probably legislation that I think was the heart was in the right place in responding to a constituent and trying to do the right thing. But as we often see up here, there are unintended consequences, and that was a great example.
And it just went too far, and that's when the industry said, push back, and now it's going to be repealed, hopefully. Okay, that's our list.
Yeah, so Brad, why don't you tell us a little bit about what else is going on down there these days, other than just our bills? I know it's an interesting time. It is.
No, these next 6 weeks are really interesting. I mean, this is really where the kind of the meat of everything is going to be. Last week the governor had his State of the State address, and so that was really sort of the kickoff of everything hitting on all 8 cylinders, if you will. So leadership is planning to really try to go ahead and send everybody home. They're saying May 1st, adjournment day. It's never quite that early, but
so great.
Yeah, I know. But they're working on it, and so you're looking at May 1st. So what you do is you kind of back build the schedule based on that. So what we're seeing is our committees, some of which have already begun to shut down. So House Commerce Subcommittee, all those subcommittees are done now. And so, you're starting, the Judiciary Committees, I will say, we don't have any members out there in a panic, the Judiciary Committee tends to be one of the last ones to go ahead and shut down. So none of our bills are in danger of kind of getting caught up in that. But so what you're starting to see is a shift from legislation to beginning to also see where the committees are getting full speed ahead and dealing with legislation, but you're also beginning to see budget presentations take place. That's what happened this week. You had, for instance, in the House Judiciary, you had the TBI go and present. You also had the district attorneys go and present. So there's going to be a steady stream of those coming in the next few weeks, and then at that point, you look to pass a budget probably sometime in mid to late April. And then after that, there's usually about a week of wrap up, and they try to go home. So that's the way the schedule goes. But it's an interesting time. Those of you that go to the legislature anytime in the next 4 weeks, it's like the old videos of the New York Stock Exchange. I mean, there's a lot of people hollering in hallway conversations and just controlled chaos, and sometimes it's not even that controlled.
Yeah, late hours. I mean, the Senate Judiciary Committee met till after 6 on Tuesday. So
that sounds like the budget might be the subject of a future one of these weekly updates.
Yes.
We take a lot to get into that today, but thanks for the update. I wanted to ask about a very specific and I think fun thing that you guys got to do. Tell us about the Catalyst bill and what happened with that this week.
It was, Berkeley's got her own perspective on it. It was really cool. To see those students come to the Capitol that had really gone and come up with legislation, and then they get sponsors, and now we've got a bill that's running, and so it was just a chance to see those students see really democracy in action, if you will. They got to tour the Capitol. I think the coolest reaction I got, I spoke to him for a minute. The coolest reaction was when I told him, I said, hey, in that corner right there, we were in the old Supreme Court chambers, which is a really cool room in itself. And for those of you that haven't been there, that's really the room now. It is the old Supreme Court chambers. A lot of paintings of all the old justices in the room. And now they use it for really ceremonial press conferences and like when Amazon or Alliance Bernstein or Phillips is coming to town, that's where they do those press conferences. But anyway, the students, I told them, I said, you're talking to them about the legislative process, and sometimes you kind of see them start to doze off a little bit, like all of us did during a boring law school lecture. Yeah. And then you turn around and see, I said, look, the coolest thing about this room is right over in that corner, buried in that wall, was the gentleman who was the architect of this Capitol, and some people say the Capitol is haunted. And I mean, the looks of the students, I mean, whoa, it was cool. So I think if nothing else, their takeaway is, okay, that was cool that we had that bill. Yeah. TBA is awesome for getting us up here, and the Capitol's haunted. So that's probably the takeaway.
Yeah, they had great speakers from the governor's staff. Brandon Gibson was there talking to them, and she had such good advice. And then other attorneys who work for, and legislative people who work for the governor. We got to attend the Senate State and Local Government Committee meeting. Their bill wasn't before the committee. It's actually up next week, but they're in spring break. But they got to kind of get a taste of that, and it's a very important committee, but it's very dry, all about municipalities and utilities and. Anyway, so we stayed for a little bit, and then they got to meet with Representative Hakeem, who is their representative, and he also gave them really good advice about, it's not what you say, it's how you say it and how you treat people. I thought it was great. I mean, the whole day was really good. They're from the Chattanooga School for Arts and Sciences. They had really impressive questions. They were paying attention. I could not be more impressed. And then we came back here and just did like a Q&A about everything they had seen, any questions they had, and ate some mo's, and it was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great.
And if you have any more questions about the details of the Catalyst bill, we did an entire video about it a few weeks ago with the Young Lawyers Division President, Christian Barker.
And he was there yesterday too. So we had a lot of help with Christian and Debbie, and then Patrick, who was in Chattanooga and helped us. Came together, and Stephanie from our office, lots of people helped us out.
So if you want more background on that, go back and check that video out. We were just so happy to host the kids this week.
It was fun.
They seemed very impressive.
I know. They're good. It's exciting for the future of Tennessee and our country.
So before we wrap up, Berkeley, do you have something to tell us about TBA Impact, perhaps?
Yeah, so we have I don't know if some of you may have been in the old TBA Impact. We have a new TBA Impact, which is exciting and kind of I think, more user-friendly place to go. It's we have all of our TBA initiatives on it, so you can read about them, check to see the status of them, contact your senators and representatives. And the way, Catherine will put a link here, but it's also, if you just go to the tba.org website, in the drop-down menu, if you go to Government Affairs, just click on that, and it's also there. So, I don't know, check it out. It's kind of, you can get more information and actually see the bills, and I think it'll be good.
I think the importance of engaging on the impact, piece is that it's not only just the bills that we're running on TBA's behalf, which is Berkeley and I talked about. I mean, we have a lengthy process for approving a bill and getting it ready to go, and who all's going to advocate for it and so forth. But that's just a small piece of it. And invariably, I think probably 80% of what we do is conveying concerns or working against bills or putting out brush fires on issues that affect us every single day as members. And so constantly, and I'm on all the emails, Berkeley's always emailing members that so many emails. That are experts about a certain piece of subject matter and getting their feedback, and there are emails flying around today on those various issues. So I think that's the importance. As a member, you can really engage and be a resource for us, and having a chance to weigh in on policy issues that affect all of us. Even if none of the bills we're running this session impact your specific area of practice, there may be a bill that somebody else is running that does, and so to be able to be a resource for us is very, very helpful.
Yeah, and we get that from the sections and specifically their executive councils, and then in the connects we've started including the bills, but that's huge. And people have asked me, are you updating TBA Impact on all the bills you're following? Well, that is like a moving target in a lot of ways. So it's hard for me. I don't want to put, we oppose this bill and then all of a sudden we support it because they amended it. So it's in real time, it's really hard for me to update that in a way that, unless it's just a bill that, you know, would completely disrupt our industry and we know we 100% oppose it. But a lot of the bills we're sort of trying to work behind the scenes and, you know, and so I'll figure that out, a way to communicate that better. But mostly through the sections is where I'm, what I'm doing with that. So I'm getting there.
So go check it out, TPA Impact. So final thoughts, guys? SEC tournament?
Big orange all the way, baby. Big orange all day long. I can't wait. Tomorrow's gonna be a huge day. Biggest night ever. Kentucky top 5 team, Tennessee top 5 team. I'm hoping those of you that think about getting tickets, please come wear your orange. I want to put as much orange in. I'm already seeing the blue mist walking around downtown.
I've seen them too.
I mean, it's driving me crazy. With all due respect to any Kentucky fans
like
out there.
confront them.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of that. I mean, this is it's our state capital.
Yeah.
It's our team, favorite team in history.
Right.
Let's go big orange.
Yeah,
That's right.
Exciting stuff. I don't have a prediction.
Oh, come on.
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm not following it super closely. My husband's a huge Georgia fan. They lost. Vanderbilt lost. Yeah. So,
Well, UT graduate, I'm also going to have to go with the Vols. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, Brad, thank you for being here
Great to be
today. It was wonderful to have your insight. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out later. You can also catch up on all of the previous legislative updates here on Facebook and also on our YouTube page, where we also include all of the links to the bills we talk about. Thanks for tuning in every week, and we'll see you next Thursday.